Saturday mornings had always been Hannah's sacred time. For 16 years of our marriage, those precious hours belonged entirely to her. She would slip out of bed early, often before the sun had fully risen, and head out into the world with a quiet excitement that I had come to cherish. Sometimes it was leisurely shopping trips through the farmer's market or her favorite boutiques downtown. Other times she'd meet up with old friends for coffee and long conversations that stretched into lunch. And occasionally, she simply craved what she affectionately called me time, wandering through parks, reading a book on a quiet bench, or treating herself to a solo movie. I never minded. Not once. Our relationship had always been built on a deep, unshakable foundation of trust and mutual respect. I loved that she had her own world outside of us, just as I had mine. It kept our marriage fresh and balanced. But that one fateful Saturday, the illusion of that perfect balance shattered in the most brutal way imaginable. I had plans to meet my old college buddy, Mark, for breakfast at our usual spot downtown. The morning air was crisp and carried the faint scent of fresh bread from nearby bakeries as I strolled along the bustling sidewalk, my mind wandering through old memories and inside jokes we'd likely revisit. That's when I happened to glance through the large glass window of a charming little cafe I'd passed 100 times but never entered. What I saw stopped me dead in my tracks, as if someone had punched the air straight out of my lungs and left me gasping. There was Hannah, seated at a cozy table right by the window, bathed in soft morning light. Across from her sat a young man I had never seen before, likely in his early 20s, with warm brown eyes, neatly styled dark hair, and a gentle smile that seemed to light up his entire face. They weren't engaged in casual conversation. They were laughing together softly, their hands intertwined on the table like two people completely lost in each other's world. Their gazes held an unmistakable tenderness, a deep familiarity that sent ice through my veins. Then, with heartbreaking gentleness, he reached across and brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. Hannah tilted her head slightly, her smile, the soft, radiant, soul-capturing one that used to light up my entire world, shining back at him with pure affection. My stomach churned violently. A wave of nausea and raw betrayal crashed over me like a tidal wave, threatening to knock me off my feet. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, partially hidden by a potted plant just out of their direct line of sight, watching the scene unfold like some cruel nightmare I couldn't wake from. 16 years of marriage suddenly felt like the most fragile illusion. Every happy memory we'd built, the quiet evenings on the porch, our daughter Emily's birth, the vacations where we'd promised forever, seemed poison and fake in that instant. My mind spiraled into a storm of painful, frantic questions. Who the hell was this man? How long had this secret affair been happening right under my nose? Was our entire life together nothing but a carefully maintained lie? Rage, confusion, heartbreak, and disbelief warred inside my chest. My fists clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. Part of me, the primal, furious part, wanted to storm through the cafe door, slam my hands on the table, and demand answers from both of them right there in front of everyone. But pride, or perhaps paralyzing shock, kept me rooted in place. I couldn't bear the thought of causing a public scene, of becoming that cliché betrayed husband. Instead, I turned away quietly, my legs heavy as lead, and forced myself to walk back to the car. The drive home became a disorienting blur of traffic lights and honking horns. My hands trembled so badly on the steering wheel that I nearly ran a red light, my vision blurred by unshed tears and barely contained fury. The image of them together replayed endlessly in my head, each loop cutting deeper, sharper, more vicious than the last. By the time I pulled into our quiet suburban driveway, fury had completely overtaken the initial shock. I stormed inside the house, the silence mocking me as I yanked open drawers and threw clothes haphazardly into a small duffel bag. I booked the first available room at a nearby hotel, my fingers stabbing at my phone screen with barely controlled anger. Before leaving, I scribbled a short note on the kitchen counter in bold, angry strokes, "Don't come home, Hannah." For cold, devastating words that carried the full weight of my shattered heart and broken trust. I powered off my phone, checked into the sterile hotel room, and spent the rest of the afternoon staring blankly at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our marriage, desperately trying to piece together how my seemingly perfect life had crumbled so completely in the span of a single morning. That evening, when I finally turned my phone back on, it exploded with a barrage of notifications. 32 missed calls from Hannah, along with dozens of frantic text messages. Her tone shifted rapidly, from puzzled concern, "Ethan, honey, what's going on? Why the note?" to growing panic, "Please pick up the phone. I don't understand. Where are you? I'm scared," to desperate pleas. I ignored every single one, my chest tight with resentment and a strange, hollow satisfaction that she was finally feeling some of the pain I was enduring. Around midnight, drained, emotionally hollow, and physically exhausted, I played one of her voicemails. Her voice came through broken and desperate, choked with heavy, uncontrollable sobs. "Ethan, please, call me back. You don't understand what's happening. Please come home. I love you more than anything. Don't do this." The raw, guttural pain in her words pierced through my armor, but I steeled myself against it. I thought I had seen everything I needed to see at that cafe. Then my phone rang again. It was our daughter, Emily. The second I answered, her hysterical screams tore through the line. "Dad! You have to come home right now. Mom did something terrible. Please, Dad, hurry." My heart slammed against my ribs like a trapped animal. Pure terror replaced every other emotion as I sped home, breaking every speed limit, my mind racing with the worst possible scenarios. The street was utter chaos when I arrived, ambulances with blinding flashing lights, multiple police cars parked at jagged angles, and clusters of concerned neighbors standing in the shadows, murmuring and pointing. The sight made my blood run ice cold. I pushed through the crowd with trembling legs and found Emily sobbing uncontrollably in the arms of a female police officer. "Where's your mother?" I shouted, my voice cracking with fear. Through her tears, Emily pointed shakily toward the back of an open ambulance. There sat Hannah, wrapped tightly in a thick gray blanket, her face ghostly pale and streaked with dried tears, her eyes hollow and distant. For one fleeting second, overwhelming relief flooded my body. She was alive. But then the officer's gentle, sympathetic words landed like a devastating hammer blow. She tried to hurt herself. My knees buckled beneath me. The world tilted violently. The cafe scene that had consumed my every thought all day suddenly felt insignificant and petty compared to this horrifying new reality. Something much darker, heavier, and far more dangerous had been weighing on Hannah for who knows how long, and I had been completely, blindly oblivious to it. At the hospital, under the harsh, unforgiving fluorescent lights of a quiet private room, Hannah finally revealed the truth. Her voice was fragile and barely above a whisper, fresh tears streaming steadily down her swollen cheeks. The young man from the cafe wasn't a lover. His name was Tyler, and he was her biological son. 20 years ago, at just 19 years old, long before she and I had ever crossed paths, Hannah had found herself unexpectedly pregnant during a difficult time in her life. Overwhelmed, scared, and feeling utterly unprepared to raise a child, she had made the agonizing, selfless decision to place him for adoption. It was a painful chapter she had buried deep inside her heart, carrying the guilt, grief, and longing alone for 2 full decades. Months earlier, Tyler had tracked her down through a DNA testing registry. They had been cautiously, secretly building a fragile new relationship, meeting in quiet places as they navigated the complex, overwhelming emotions of this unexpected reunion. The hand-holding, the tender touches, the emotional glances I had witnessed weren't signs of romance or betrayal. They were the raw, overwhelming feelings of a mother finally reconnecting with the child she had never stopped loving, wondering about, or quietly mourning. When Hannah had returned home that day and found my devastating note, the crushing fear that she had lost both her husband and the son she had only just begun to know became unbearable. In her darkest moment of despair, she had reached a breaking point. As she spoke, a crushing wave of shame and regret washed over me. I hadn't given her even a single chance to explain. I hadn't asked one question. I had leaped straight to the worst possible conclusion, driven purely by jealousy, hurt pride, and fear. Yet Hannah wasn't without fault. Through fresh sobs, she confessed that she had hidden Tyler's existence because she was terrified I would judge her harshly for giving him up all those years ago. That heavy secret had slowly eaten away at her, feeding the depression and anxiety she had battled in silence for years. We had both allowed fear and silence to nearly destroy the beautiful life we had built together. Recovery was a long, painful, and deeply emotional road. Hannah spent several weeks in professional treatment, courageously working through decades of suppressed pain, guilt, and trauma. I attended every therapy session she invited me to, sitting quietly at first, then learning to listen more than I spoke, truly seeing her for perhaps the first time in years. Tyler began visiting our home regularly. At first, the interactions were awkward and filled with tentative small talk, but his gentle, kind nature quickly won us over. He wasn't there to disrupt or replace our family, he simply wanted to know his mother. One quiet afternoon in our backyard, he looked me directly in the eye and said softly, "I don't want to take anyone's place, sir. I just wanted a chance to know where I came from and maybe, be part of this family if you'll let me." Those honest words stayed with me long after he left. This remarkable young man had lived 20 years with unanswered questions and a sense of emptiness, while Hannah had carried decades of quiet, hidden sorrow. Months passed, and our family slowly, carefully healed. That first Thanksgiving with Tyler sitting at our dining table felt like a genuine miracle. Watching Hannah laugh freely with her son, the joy and light gradually returning to her eyes, brought tears rolling down my own cheeks. There were still visible scars, moments when old doubts resurfaced unexpectedly, difficult late-night conversations filled with vulnerability, and occasional waves of guilt that would linger for days. But there was also genuine forgiveness, growing honesty, and a renewed, deeper trust that felt stronger than before. Hannah had kept that short, angry note I had written. One quiet evening months later, as we sat together on the couch, I finally asked her why she held on to it. She gave me a sad but gentle smile and replied, "Because it reminds me every single day never to hide from the people who love me. It almost cost me everything. Not because of betrayal or infidelity, but because too scared, imperfect people had chosen secrecy over courage and assumptions over open understanding." Today, Tyler calls every Sunday like clockwork, his voice warm and familiar. Hannah no longer carries her heavy burden alone, and I've learned, painfully, to pause before letting my imagination spiral into destruction. Sometimes, when we drive past that same little cafe, she squeezes my hand a little tighter, leans her head on my shoulder, and we share a quiet, knowing laugh about how dramatically life can twist in the most unexpected ways. What began as the single most painful day of my life, the day I genuinely believed my marriage was ending, turned out to be the start of something profoundly beautiful. A new chapter. A larger, more complete family. A deeper appreciation for truth, empathy, vulnerability, and the healing power of choosing understanding over fear. Sometimes the things that make your heart drop sickeningly to your stomach are the very beginnings of a miracle you never saw coming. And for that, I will be forever grateful.